is how loud I come across sometimes, and I don't mean to be.
What do you mean? What do you mean come across?
Oh, so I'm just loud? Is that what we're getting at? Got it. It's true. Yeah. I'm not like starting a fight with you.
So when we used to do in the boardroom, we would set the phone
furthest away from me.
Right.
So maybe you and I should switch seats.
I don't think it matters. It's a small room right now.
It is. Should I go sit like on the stool?
Welcome to the Hospitality Authority podcast here at the Leadership Center in Aurora, Nebraska.
It's Miley
and Michaela are back. They weren't here last week, and so I'd answer the phone more than I usually do. I can't remember if I had to do any things that I normally wouldn't have to do as much.
You had to take pictures of the calendar and send them to us quite a bit. You don't normally take pictures of the calendar and send them to us, that I'm aware of.
Not normally. But it was a lot quieter. It was quieter. I can't say that it was quieter because you were gone. It was just quieter. But you two were gone to the wedding MBA. Is it a convention? Is it an expose? Expose.
It's not an expose.
Expose. What's the word I'm looking for?
Expo?
Exposition?
Yes.
Is it an exposition?
There was an exposition there for 2 days.
But it's also, would you call it a conference?
Yeah, I think so. Wouldn't you, Michaela?
I mean, its technical term is convention, but...
Oh, okay. It's convention.
That's what their email said, convention.
So they're going with convention. Okay.
We're going with convention then.
So
how conventional?
Wedding MBA convention and exposition in Las Vegas, Nevada or Nevada. I say Nevada, but some people don't like that. And you met a celebrity. I don't know his name. What's his name?
David Tutera.
David
Tutera.
And evidently David Tutera is famous for something.
Event planner.
He's an event planner. Does he specialize in?
All events.
I think he started out in events, right? And then he was kind of known throughout. People knew him for weddings because he had a show.
Well, yeah, he describes himself as a celebrity event planner. His first television show was a wedding show about weddings that he planned. And then now he had a show about events, not just weddings. It was book openings, housewarmings, whatever, and events that he planned. And now he's going to have a new show out that's about weddings.
But it's a really neat show. So his new show that starts on Lifetime, I think?
Yeah, in like February.
In February it's going to feature couples who have had enough life experiences that the one thing that they really deserve is kind of a happily ever after. But what makes this so unique is that the wedding portion of this show is going to be shot in real time. Meaning it's going to air in real time. So anything that could go wrong during a wedding ceremony will probably be caught because it'll be happening on
So they're trying to make reality TV?
It's like Miley kind of described it to David's husband as like a home makeover.
Yeah, it's extreme home makeover in a way, but it's for weddings.
But not, extreme home makeover wasn't live, but it's giving to people in need that aren't able to probably have a wedding or can't afford it or whatever, and they deserve.
They definitely can't afford David Tutera.
Well,
right.
No.
So what's kind of exciting though is his weddings aren't going to be We know him for doing really big weddings, but what's exciting about this is that he's actually seeking out couples. And one of the neat things is they haven't had all their venues completely figured out in the locations that they're going to. So he said, after I get done talking, please go see my husband and business partner, Joey Toth, to talk about whether or not you're in a state that we have a venue need. Nebraska currently isn't a state that has a venue need, but they're really hoping to, because we have some pretty unique populations here, including Offutt Air Force Base, with people who have given greatly of themselves that the world might deem like the people might see why it would be neat to be able to give back to them. You know what I mean? So, like, what if we had an injured soldier who was getting married, but because of health bills and such, can't have their dream wedding?
So they're looking for people to gift weddings to.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the other thing that he stresses. It's 100% gift. But there's a lot of requirements that you have to have as a location to be able to be one of the sites, which kind of neatly enough, the Leadership Center meets those requirements. So now we're looking for a Nebraska couple. They're going to Minnesota. They're going to go to Pennsylvania, I think he said. I feel like he said some of the Carolinas, maybe Texas. But anyway, so that was kind of a highlight. We got to meet David Tutera, which was really, really special to me. But I don't think that, as special as it could have been to me, it nearly would hit the heartstrings as it did for Michaela. Michaela was moved.
I almost cried. I teared up. Partially because, well, and I told him this, when I went to school after high school, when I graduated and went to UNL, my major was journalism. I thought I wanted to be a journalist. And I realized really fast that was not the right career path for me. And I remember specifically winter break of my freshman year, I was really struggling to figure out what I wanted to do. And I remember stumbling upon a couple of wedding shows, and one of them was David Tutera's wedding show. And I just kind of fell in love with the process, and I fell in love with him. And it kind of brought me back to what it was like planning and budgeting for my high school senior prom. And so, in a way, in a roundabout way, he led me to reanalyzing what made me happy. And I loved planning my senior prom and budgeting and looking through catalogs and picking out decor and all of that. And so I decided when I came back to college that UNL had a hospitality program and they had an event planning major, and that's what I was going to do. And so because of him, essentially, helping me realize what I really love, that's why I became an event planner.
He was very touched by that as well. There was hugs all around.
And I almost cried multiple times.
It was magical. I mean, he is so passionate about what he does, and he understands the importance of hiring professionals, which I really appreciated him pointing out that there are a lot of people who do events who think that they can in part be an event planner, but they don't necessarily have the experiences that people who are in the profession do with vendors and with locations and with even problem-solving abilities. And the other thing I really liked about him is he said celebrate every day like it's a celebration. And I thought that's positivity at its best. It was really neat. And what I also really loved about his time, he talked to us for an hour. He didn't just talk about why he's famous. He actually didn't even talk about much of that at all. He talked about why he does what he does, what drove him there, how hard he had to work to get there. He started out in a little town in New York and then moved over to the next big town in New York before he ended up being down in Georgia, Atlanta, and then he ended up in LA. So that was really, really kind of cool.
And then New York, because he failed in LA.
Yep. And it was really, really neat for him to share. Not only did he have good experiences, but he had really, really bad experiences.
So was he like a keynote?
He was the keynote
Okay.
speaker.
So I'm gathering that his keynote was more along the lines of motivational, inspirational.
Yeah, it was.
than-
He talked about 8 attributes you need to have in order to succeed. And it was really interesting to hear his take on things and to hear those attributes. But and then just to hear his journey, because he didn't start off being famous or making a lot of money doing events. He started off, I think he said his
Hustling.
first job made like $2,500 or something in the 80s. Like, didn't start off making millions or thousands of dollars when he started events. And now he does events all over the world. He's doing one in the south of France, and he's done it in, I think, Abu Dhabi, and he's been all over the world to do events. So it takes hard work and dedication, and it's not for the faint at heart.
Mm-mm.
I mean, event planning is not. You have to deal with a lot of things.
He also talked about, and I think is great that he hit on, that no one is an overnight success. That all of those success stories are built over time with hard work. And if you think you're just going to show up and be famous and good at what you do because you like pretty things, or you think your wedding was executed beautifully, but you don't even realize, even if you planned your wedding, you didn't plan your wedding, you had a ton of people helping you, and you had a lot of expertise, even if it was your mom and your grandma and the church lady. And he talked about the fact that nobody's an island in this business. You can't do it by yourself. And it's about team building. It's about community building. He really hit on community. And about the fact that if you don't like that clients call you at this time of night, or you don't like that their emotions are running high because it's a big day, and you don't like that sometimes people are going to say nasty things to you, this might not be your business. Because you are brought in to be a part of an incredibly important day. And due to that, there's a lot of emotions running high. There's a lot of details that need to be checked. And you need to be willing to go there. And if you can't, then maybe you need to look at another industry. And I thought that was also very interesting, because you don't always get that kind of brutal honesty when it comes to things like that.
And I'd say that's, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to run a business, those are qualities that you have to have. No matter what you do, I don't care if you could be a mechanic. I think those are the same.
Mm-hmm.
I can insert, someone's pickup truck, a farmer's pickup truck. This is their pickup.
Mm-hmm.
This is the most important tool they have.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't fix it right, or it's not done when it's supposed to be done, you're going to hear about it.
Yeah.
You're going to hear about emotions because, what if it's a big bill and, an inopportune time to lose it. I think that's an entrepreneur, business owner, that's advice for everyone.
So what he was really getting at is that everybody and their brother thinks they can do something, and whether the something they pick is the right something is sometimes frustrating. So let's take a mechanic. Let's say you grew up helping fix, the tractors on the farm. That does not immediately mean you're qualified to walk into John Deere and be a diesel mechanic. You might have steps to get there, but you still need an education. And he says a lot of times people don't want to work for what they think they deserve. And he's like, it's been a very interesting time when you're hiring interns and people to work in these areas because they think they deserve the overnight success that he's worked 25 years to get.
That's the stereotypical entitlement issues that we always poke fun at millennials for having.
It's true.
We poke fun at that.
But anyway, so I found him really, really inspiring, and it was really nice to hear that he has bad days too. And then,
it's funny how most people are human.
Yeah.
So, what else stuck out to you at the conference? What were your highlights or high points as far as the things that you can take from there and apply here to what we do at the Leadership Center?
First off, I need to say that I told Michaela when we walked away from our first session, which was 45 minutes long, and we were both like, oh my gosh. I said to her the same thing that I had someone tell me when I was going through Institute of Organization Management, was take it all in, take a lot of notes, pick one thing to apply when you get back, and then don't look at anything for at least a week or two, and then map out the rest of it on a calendar for the next year or two. And I said, because otherwise you're going to get really, really overwhelmed. So we might not have all the answers to that question, but I think that there's probably some definitely, I know for me there were standout things. How about you, Michaela?
Yeah, definitely learned a lot of information. That first day, my contest, I was, not the first full day, I should say. I was exhausted, literally exhausted to the point that I almost fell asleep at 7 o'clock in the hotel room because I was so tired from all the information. And we had a 2-hour recap that day after 8 hours of classes. It was insane. But I definitely learned a lot about how to handle difficult clients or difficult situations. One thing, though, that I think both Miley and I are going to try and implement a little bit more on in a session that we found incredibly interesting was work-life balance.
Oh, yeah, she was amazing.
And how important that is, and especially for us when, what we do here is, it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's
not even an 8-to-5 job.
But it can sometimes be, a 24-hour job depending on what's going on, what groups we have here, what issues arise, whatever. And it's not just a 40-hour-a-week job. It's much more than that because we work when we're not out. We work outside of the office. So balancing and knowing when you need to stop working and when you need to say no and when you need to put yourself first is something that I personally need to implement and work on because I don't set boundaries very well on things like that. So
I thought one thing that she said really poignantly, she talked about scheduling, and I don't remember her name. We'll have to find it and put it in the notes. But she said, if you cannot schedule your personal life, you absolutely will not survive professionally. She said a lot of times people think that you have to schedule your life around your job, and that will kill you. And I thought it was really, really interesting for her to say, especially in industries that are guest service minded or service minded, you don't always get to work within the confines of that 8-to-5 or whatnot. And you need to know when you need to be doing and giving and need to be not doing and taking. And I thought that was interesting. And she has a young son with needs. And she's got a husband who works very hard as well. And she is a business owner. And so it's taken some time to develop rules about travel and how to set each other up for success. And she's like, I don't think that you can have your cake and eat it too. I think you need to decide what your cake is going to be and how you're going to eat it. Kind of thing of, you can't have it all right away, but you can have it all over time. And you need to build that. And so I thought that was interesting.
Your needs change as time goes on.
She also said, girls, embrace the crock pot.
Yes.
Why would you not?
I know. I don't know. I don't use one.
That's one of those things that don't have to be said, really.
I don't use one a lot, but I do have one.
Yeah, but you have a George Foreman.
Well, it's not. I have a Cuisinart grill. And
but it's a knockoff George Foreman.
I had a George Foreman, but it was just too small.
Because you want to George Foreman the hell out of everything.
I use it a lot to grill chicken because I don't have a grill, so it's what I use.
She talked about her priorities. Like, one of the things she wanted when she had kids is she doesn't realize she really wanted to be there to get her son on the bus and off the bus every day. That was important to her. And she thought for a really long time that was really important to her is to not have daycare. So she was going to work with her son in the office. And she quickly realized that wasn't good for anybody. And that it was okay that their son got to go socialize with kids at the daycare and be in programs and such. But it's still very important to her that she's there to get her son on the bus and get him off in the bus 4 days a week. She knows she can't do it 5, but she can do it 4 days. And I think about, I sat there when she was saying that thinking, I'm so blessed because when I had my son, it was a unique situation to be at the Leadership Center because they hadn't had a woman who had been the executive director, but more specifically, they hadn't had someone in the spot that was at that time of having kids. They had children, but they weren't giving birth to kids and whatnot. So I was really blessed because our board said I was going to know when it was time, if it was time to send my son to daycare. And that they understood I couldn't have a babysitter 24/7. And that taking time to go to my kids' programs were important. And that I got to do that. And I should get to do that. And so should our staff. So I at that time really reflected on the fact that we're really blessed that we've built a business that 9 out of 10 times, if not 10 out of 10 times, allows us to go do our family things first. And I didn't have to pick and choose some of that. So I get to take my son to school every day, and I love that. And I get to pick him up from school on the days I remember. I get to pick him up from school, and I like that. And that's another thing she reframed the question. And I know you've said this several times to us, Kurt, too. Is I'm like, oh, I have to. And you're like, no, you get to. And she reframed that whole thing of remember that whether you're planning an event, you're going to cocktails with your girlfriends or to a family dinner, or you're spending time with your child, it isn't a you have to. It's a you get to, because it's a privilege to get to be a part of people's lives and their stories.
And I know that's annoying to some people when I do that, whenever someone says I have to. Because, you can say, no, you get to. Or you can say, no, you choose to.
Mm-hmm.
Or you chose to. Because there's very little I have to.
Yep.
Very little. I think that's just a good perspective.
And I really liked how she tied it. She's like, you have the privilege. You have the privilege to be a part of people's stories. You have a privilege to be a part of their events. You have the privilege to be a part of that moment in time. And I thought, you're right. Michaela and I talk about that in weddings, and we always talk about the little moments we see in the ceremonies and the receptions or the events we have here. We'll talk about a client and how we look forward to seeing them come through the doors and such, and it's really a privilege. And we get to be a part of something that maybe in a different position we wouldn't have been afforded. So I really liked that she once again reminded us of a lesson that you commonly remind us of, and I think it's great. So she was awesome. Mm-hmm. Michaela also got to hear a speaker from an inventor too, Toddie's.
Oh yeah,
which was cool. She's cool.
Britt. I don't remember her last name at the moment. Bertino, I think. But she is actually an event planner, and she moved to Vegas and started from the bottom and worked her way up. And
like Drake.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she, became a very successful event planner, and she started or is on the board of a organization called WIPA, and she now created Toddie, which is this leather bound product that event coordinators can wear.
It's a tool belt.
It's a tool belt, or we got the vestie, but lots of times wedding planners wear dresses or they wear clothes that don't have pockets. So we don't have a place to put our phones or to put scissors or to put items that we need and use on the day of an event. And so she created a belt, originally a belt that you could wear around your waist, or we, like I said, got the vestie, which looks like a gun holster. It's kind of cool. But I'm kind of excited to use it, but it's a really cool thing to use and something that I'm surprised took this long to think of.
Yeah. We saw it and it just made so much sense. Like, you see hairstylists have it, plumbers have them, construction workers have them.
Yeah. So, but she was a really great speaker and I really, really enjoyed listening to her. And definitely intrigued by what she had to say and some of the things that she talked about. So I'm anxious to look back at my notes from that session, and to read and remember what we talked about completely. But I really enjoyed listening to her a lot. So, and she was super nice when we met her and talked to her.
Oh my gosh,
I had a really lovely conversation with her. So
she was a person who made sure that she was client focused, and even though there was 20 other people in her booth, she was talking to you.
I mean, and we had like
anything else.
Personal conversations and detailed conversations about like what we did, where we worked, where we were from, and what our client base was and stuff like that. So
I was going to say, that was one thing that surprised me when we got to meet David Tutera and Joey Toth. They wanted to know, so where do you work and what brought you here? And they had hundreds of people in line to take pictures with David Tutera, which that line moved so efficiently. It was amazing. There are a lot of places that have lines that could learn quite a lot about how to efficiently move things through and still
I'm
have
guessing he planned it that way.
personal contact.
And the lady that took pictures was taking candid photos.
Yeah.
Not just posed photos. So, like,
we got pictures of us talking with him, and she made sure she was just snapping away, and if you wanted a boomerang or you wanted...
Except she didn't save the one girl's boomerang.
Well, you can't do everything.
Did you just lock him in here?
Anyway, so I thought that was so neat, though, is we talked, and he cared, and he was like, oh, have you checked out this resource? And it wasn't selling a David Tutera product. It was, oh my gosh, so you're doing this, and you do everything, and you have 43 acres. Can I get your business card? I'd really love to see your property. And we're like, wait, David Tutera wants our business card? And there was...
You didn't fangirl over him at all, did you?
Absolutely not. We kept our
No,
cool.
I was
Honestly.
like... No, I really didn't.
Okay.
No.
Like, I told Miley, we were standing in line, I was like, I am so nervous right now. Like, I am legitimately so nervous. I don't know what to say to him.
He's like meeting a beetle. Right?
To me, it was like meeting someone that, it sounds, I mean, so trivial, but he really does mean a lot to me. And I find him very inspirational, and his path very inspirational too. And so to meet somebody that I admire career-wise.
From afar.
Yeah.
Right. That I've looked at his books, I've seen him on TV, I follow him on Instagram and stuff. Like,
feel like you know him.
Yeah.
But you don't.
Mm-hmm. And so to walk up to him and be like, oh my gosh, I am talking to somebody that is incredibly successful in what they do and inspirational, it's really overwhelming.
But, he was so personable. The way he gave hugs, it was genuine. And he gives great hugs, by the way. Great handshake. Whether he's been through coaching or it's just natural, just the way he connects with people. And he wasn't looking at the 250 people behind us. He was looking at you. And he was excited when he found out that we worked together, and we took a picture with him, and he wasn't bothered that we wanted a picture together. And we were like, if we get one picture, it's going to be Michaela with David, and we're going to be super excited about that. We're not going to ask for anything else. And he was like, absolutely, you came all the way from Nebraska.
It was actually his suggestion.
It was his. He's like, we should have a picture together, and he's like, and we kind of, he's like, no, get in here. And we're like, he was so wonderful. And when we met Joey, who is both his husband and his business partner, we were talking about our location. She's like, tell me more about your space. I'd love to hear about this business of yours. And we're talking about that. And we're talking about some of the things that they've encountered in filming this show. And it was really neat. And we were talking about one of the programs, one of the education things he did. And he's like, look, let's connect. I'm going to give you my email. And he's like, I'm giving you my personal email. I'm like, are you kidding me? Joey, are you serious? Don't you have somebody who filters? He's like, that's just not how we do it. When you book an event with David Tutera Events, the planning session is with David because that's who you booked. That's what you're paying for. And while we'll have assistants and such who've been through our trainings probably execute a majority of that, all the meetings are going to be with David.
He makes the phone calls.
He makes the phone calls. He's the one who
emails.
makes the calls if you haven't paid the bills. It's his name. It's his business. It's our livelihood. We don't put that to assistants. That's not what this is about. And he's like, think about, and one of the things Joey said to us, he's like, think about an experience you've had where you just wish you could have talked to a person and you had to punch buttons. How much easier it would have been if you would have just got a person on the phone that knew the answer. Well, we give you either an answering machine or we give you an assistant. They're not going to know the answer. So why not just save everyone time, show you the value that you have, and take the 5 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever it's going to take to get it done and do it right. Which I have something to learn from that.
So I can relate that to small businesses too, because what he's managed to do is to grow his business but still actually plan events.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some people would grow the business and then eventually hire someone to do the actual planning of events, and they're in the event planning business, and then the head of the company will go out and try to get more business for their event planners to do, because that happens with I'll go back to mechanics. I've seen mechanics that have done that. It's like, oh, they build their business, they hire a few mechanics, and all of a sudden they're not working on stuff.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I find, I guess, another thing so interesting about him is that he wouldn't have to be involved in events like he is. He could literally just be the face of
the business.
But he stated in his keynote that it was very important that when a client emails asking about an event or booking an event or whatever, that he is the one that responds back to them. No one else responds back to them. And he's very personable, and he is very, which is kind of interesting the way that he said that he responds to emails, because in one of my sessions before that, in the event planning track, they're like, you shouldn't respond with congratulations, you shouldn't, because it's very generic, it's not very personable, whatever. And he's like, and that's how he responds to his clients. And so I found it really interesting. You have to figure out what works best for you and what is most you in your response and your interaction with clients.
Be yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Shocker.
and not, I know, but a lot of people don't. I mean, you have this cookie cutter thing that people think works.
Everyone thinks the wedding planner is Jennifer Lopez in The Wedding Planner.
But that's based on a true story, right?
It is. I'm sure it's based off of some true story, and I don't doubt that there's
our
planners
belt
that,
is like hers.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it is. But I'm just saying is everyone thinks that it's going to be that, where they don't realize that a lot of firms, like perhaps they're doing multiple events a day, and so they think that, oh well, I've got to worry about X, Y, and Z, and we're going to have a team of 8. Well, it depends on what you contract and things like that. So I just thought it was really, really neat. I loved how he said, though, if you're not the overzealous, congratulations, well then don't write that. Be you. It's the best thing you can do, so they know exactly what they're dealing with, and you don't give these unnecessary expectations, I think is what he called them. But yeah, it was really good, and he was real. He was real. I was telling McKenna when we were standing in line, and I said, I don't want to fangirl him. And John had warned us, don't fangirl. Don't make me have to come and bail you guys out of jail because you just couldn't let go of David Tutera, which I'm sure would never happen. Anyway, when I met Sean T the very first time when we went to a workout that he was hosting, and we got to do a meet and greet with him, I walked up to him, and my brain went blank, and all I thought was, oh my gosh, this is Sean T. And when he said, I really like your shirt, all I could do was like, like I could barely get out, hello, thank you, whatever. So it's like, this is not happening with someone who's in the same industry as we are. I was excited. It was really neat. No, it was really neat.
I got words out. That's all that matters.
And they made sense.
Words.
I was able to form a sentence that sounded somewhat intelligent.
So when people were asking, one of the other cool things that happened while we were in line for Joey Toth. So we had a couple, there was a mother and son behind us, and they were talking. Someone's like, where do you have an event space? And they said, we're in Texas. And they said, we're just outside of...
We're just north of Houston.
All of a sudden, Michaela goes like this.
In Conroe.
And I'm like, just ask. And she's like, what event venue do you have in Conroe? And they said...
Madera Estates.
And she said, oh my gosh.
I was like, my cousin just got married there a year and a half ago.
And they said, who's your cousin? And she told them, like, oh yeah, we enjoyed working with her. And it was really, really neat. And so we had a great conversation, and we talked about how Michaela had modeled a portion of our program after what they do. And that we had some questions. They said, just call us. And then we talked about our venue and what specifically each of us do. They were interested in the fact that we have an education arm to what we do. And that it was just really, really neat. It was neat to be amongst people who do what we do every day, and to know that sometimes when you feel like, am I really dealing with this issue, or do I have this opportunity presented to me, that we're not alone in the trenches.
By the way, their venue, whatever caterer my cousin chose, had some of the best food I've ever had in my life.
Is it even better than the steak you had at Searsucker?
Yeah, because that...
Oh, you had lobster.
Yeah. The whatever crusted lobster was amazing, and the whatever crusted chicken was amazing. My filet mignon was so good. It was just delicious food.
Anyway.
Sorry.
If you're getting married in Conroe,
go to Madera Estates.
Go to Madera Estates.
It's beautiful. They do weddings Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays.
Yeah, we talked to a venue that is in... There's a number of venues that were there from Georgia. And this one lady who is just a hoot. She owns her own venue. She's owned it for 28 years. Her daughters help part-time, but she's the sole lady. And she says things, and you're just like, what? She's amazing. She's probably seen it all. But they do a wedding on Friday, 2 weddings on Saturday, and 2 weddings on Sunday. And I'm thinking about what we do with our brides and grooms here at the Leadership Center, and thinking, oh my gosh, if we were going to try to do that 5 times a weekend, I would have to let my hair go white.
You need twice as many people to pull it off, because, I mean...
And she doesn't. She has one space. It is one space. It's all the same space. It's all the same cooks. It's all the same people. It's one space. And
they just really know how to flip it.
They do, but that must mean, I wonder how much of the same personalization you get that we have here.
Yeah, are you getting like,
I don't know.
Oh, they want a number 3. Well,
right. I don't know, but I have to also believe that this woman, she is amazing. So she was in, I think her name is Judith. She was in 2 of my sessions, and she was amazing. And she was very candid and really willing to share with venues, because I went through the venue track. The nightmares, the opportunities, the, oh my gosh, how do I fix this, things. And it was really interesting to hear how they dealt with that. One of the guys in one of my tracks, or in one of my classes, he is the manager at the resort that Dirty Dancing was filmed at. And he was talking about a weekend that he had a wedding. And he got a call from the highway service saying, so this town is a one-way in, one-way out town. And he got a call saying, well, you cannot get into town because there has been an avalanche and trees have fallen. And he said, okay, well, we'll make it work. It's not a problem. Wedding's getting started. They get the bride and groom through the line. And trees fall. And the power's out. Now, what complicates this issue is you have no lights. There's 300 people, but the maid of honor was in the elevator with the bride's grandmother, who was 80 or something like that. And the maid of honor was 8 months pregnant. And the only way to get that elevator door open was to have the fire marshal come unlock that door, or unlock the elevator. However, you couldn't get in on the road because they were closed on both sides. So they had to use a Coast Guard boat and a fire boat to get on that. It's like, it was amazing. I lit 700 candles. Everyone still got to eat. We Bluetoothed an iPhone. We had dancing. It was wonderful. I comped their wedding suite that night. Not that I could control that there was an avalanche or trees fell. Bride was so happy that she tipped us 3 times what we comped her, because she was just so happy that we went through drills. We had practice. We talked about big what ifs, and we had big what if answers for them. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. Like, that would be like the time the artist got snowed in here and we hadn't had a food order in because we weren't going to have anyone in for the weekend and we were making breakfast, or the time that we had 2 maintenance boys that lived close by that stayed here on property for 24 hours while we flipped rooms, and we had a snowstorm and we had people coming in and we were cooking for them and we were doing laundry, and it was just really neat to hear some of the opportunities they talked about with solution finding. That was cool. To hear how unique our venue is compared to so many others was also very neat, because we're not a flagship, so we're not owned by a major hotel. We're not owned by a plantation family. I think we were the only... There was one other nonprofit in my track, but that's because they were a historic venue. But their wedding part was a for-profit, contracted with that venue. So that was kind of cool. And I learned that we have some really unique things to offer brides and grooms. A lot of times you get a pond, or you get a bridge, or you get trees, or you get... It's not often that you can come places and you get almost everything. And that was kind of cool. But for me, I think I came out of one class that was about Facebook and Instagram marketing and telling your story. And my brain was overwhelmed. And then Michaela had some things. She's like, I think we need to change things. I'm like, oh my gosh, you can't even talk to me about it right now because I'm paralyzed at what I should post anyway. But I also I spent a lot of time in courses talking about hiring and how to hire for your team, what to look for, how to end an employment relationship when you need to, or a vendor relationship when you need to, and to do it without guilt associated to it. Because a lot of times I feel guilty about having to part ways with someone because you know what the paycheck means to them. But a paycheck is a paycheck. When you're doing things like we do, it has to be more than a paycheck. And so that was neat. And then they had some really cool things to talk about in regards to having exclusive vendors that you work with and things like that. So that was really educational. And that's kind of probably, we both just glossed over what we learned, but it was 3.5 days, 4 days packed of a lot of learning. But then you happen to be in one of the most incredible cities where customer service is at its best. So whether we were dealing with a Lyft driver, oh my gosh, and Postmates, they have Postmates there. Mm-hmm. But every venue that we visited and vendors that we worked with or people we came in contact, customer service was at its best, and it was really neat to witness.
Well, the city wouldn't be there without customer service. So.
That's true. So.
I mean, it would, but it would be Reno. Right?
Right. I would have to say, though, if you ever...
Why is Reno?
I don't know.
I mean...
I've never been.
Gambling was legalized in Nevada, not just Las Vegas.
Well, I will say, when we went to Las Vegas, we took some time to go to Arizona. And we visited the Grand Canyon West, which is only 2 hours out of Vegas. And they have, what did we do? Zipline. And it was incredible.
You had helmets on. We had helmets
and safety gear. But what I really thought was so neat was the lady who was in charge of it. Her name is Susanna. And she picked you up at a set, and then you got in a van and you rode to the ranch where we were in a zip line. And there was experiences there. But Susanna's like, hi, my name's Susanna. What are your names? And we say Michaela and Miley. And we're talking. And she's like, do you have any questions? The first question we asked was about the cows. They have cattle crossings everywhere. Like free range cattle.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we weren't used to that.
Oh.
And you drive over gates and stuff. It was really neat.
You need to get out more.
I guess. We experienced a town named Dolan Springs, Arizona. That was a gem. It was what did we call it? A unicorn? It was amazing. It stretched on for miles. There wasn't much to see, but what was there to see were gems. So it was kind of cool. But what I liked about Susanna, so we get there and she tells us about the cows, and then she tells us a story about a javelina. But she's like, I'm so excited to share with you my office. I'm so excited that you're going to get a chance to see what we get to do. And she told us stories about living in the canyon, and then her office is the Grand Canyon. So, I mean, it was majestic, and it was beautiful. And everyone we encountered there was equally as excited. And they knew all kinds of things, and they really saw the value in letting people have that experience and take pictures and ask questions. And they were not troubled by it at all. There was no issue. And, you know, they'd been there, well, we got there at like 1:30, 2 o'clock. So that meant they'd been doing that all day. And they still had 6 more hours to go. And they were happy to see us and happy to share with us. And I liked
I would
that.
think that it's tough to be sad working at the Grand Canyon. I you know, even if you have a rotten day, at the end of the day, you can look outside and go, oh, that's pretty good.
I mean, it's probably sad if somebody fell off the zip line.
No one has fallen off the zip line.
But I'm
Just saying,
Yeah,
that would probably...
That would be sad.
But the next morning, sunrise over the Grand Canyon. Gee.
So we drove through Joshua Tree National Park, which we didn't know was a thing.
You never heard of Joshua Tree?
Well, we've heard of Joshua Tree.
We didn't realize that was a Joshua Tree for a while.
We didn't know that it was a national park in Arizona, though.
Really?
Gorgeous. Absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Especially when you see longhorned cows walking around everywhere.
They're highly adapted to the environment.
They are. We actually had that conversation. We were like,
understand.
what do they eat and what do they drink and how do they live? And are javelinas an issue? And what about snakes? And it was, the only reason we actually found the zip line, we were going to go to the south rim of the Grand Canyon, which was 5 hours for us?
4.
Or 4.5? But Michaela and I got to talking about the wildlife that lived in the canyon. We're like, well, what lives in the Grand Canyon? And we didn't have our handy dandy Kurt Wissenberg there.
Rattlesnakes.
To tell us things and scare us.
Pack rats.
So we looked it up, and that's how we found the zip line, and we decided to go that route. But it was pretty incredible. And we weren't too far from the town on Kingsman. The town of Kingsman is what inspired the movie Cars.
We thought it might have been Dolan Springs.
It could have been Dolan Springs.
But it was Kingsman.
Kingsman. And Kingsman.
Old Kingsman.
Old Kingsman, and it's on Route 66. So.
It's not Kingston?
No.
Kingsman.
Kingsman? Okay. I can't remember.
So.
What was Kingston?
It was really neat. We got to just even seeing, we got to see all kinds of things, and just the way tourism built up.
Kingman.
In just the way tourism has built up by the sheer will of the people wanting to share where they live, because there isn't much else there. So that was neat.
Mm-hmm.
Grand Canyon's stunning. If you need a family vacation, go. And Kurt told us, whether you have an hour or you have a week or you have 3, it's not going to be enough, and you are correct.
Mm-hmm.
It is beautiful.
And the pictures are nice, but they don't.
Nothing.
We really weren't that far from there.
Nope.
Anyway, sorry. We would have crossed Route 66.
One of the things, they have these roads out there. Man, it's just like it's not even a low maintenance road or a dirt road. It's paved, and then it's not. And there's no turnaround.
Roads to nowhere.
They literally are.
Mm-hmm.
And the houses, the colors, there's a lot of white and turquoise and pink in the desert. The cactuses are really pretty. They laughed about the fact that they called it hipster cactuses. The saguaro cactus is a hipster cactus, which is on everything, but they are only native to Arizona. They are not in Nevada.
New Mexico or Nevada.
I guess not. I don't know. So that was it. We were the only ones from America on our zipline crew.
There's one other.
Oh, was there?
The girl that went.
Oh,
in
yeah.
front
Where
of
was
us.
she was from? I forget. But we had someone from Puerto Rico. Someone from, like, Germany, I think. It was just lots of language. And it was really interesting how many of the tour guides out there knew those languages.
Because, customer service.
Customer service. So, how was your week while we were gone?
It was a whirlwind.
Did you miss us?
Absolutely, 100%.
Aww,
100%.
that's nice.
What am I gonna say?
Michaela took me to see the Bellagio fountains. And
Did you go at
Inside of the
night?
Bellagio.
we
Go at
did.
night. Did you feel like you were in Ocean's 11? And
I
you
told
just
her that the first
robbed
time.
Sherry Benedict was like $60 million.
Yeah, so I told her the first time that I ever saw the fountains, the entire scene at the end of Ocean's 11 played in my head, and the music, and I saw each character individually walk away from the fountain as I'm watching the fountains. And then again,
Including Scott Conn.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
And, George Clooney, and, George Clooney didn't watch it, but Brad Pitt, and
It was
Matt
great.
Damon.
It was so great.
But anyway, so then we were standing there, and I'm just telling her this, and they played Chicago was the music this time around. When I went, it was New York, New York was the song that they played during the show. And so, I was like, again, the whole scene from Ocean's 11 played in my head as I'm watching the fountains. And then I was like, we have to go inside because you'll see the sculptures that are in the movie. And then it really makes you feel like I am where Ocean's 11 was filmed.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. We went on a gondola ride at the Venetian.
Some lovely individuals.
Yeah, they were from Connecticut. It was Michael's 55th birthday.
I think he'd had about 55 beers, too.
Yeah, that was just...
That canal's not that deep, though, right?
No,
you just stand
no.
out. Okay.
The other thing that we did, we went to Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And we went in and we went and sat down in they had this sitting area.
Yeah, I had never been to the Venetian or to Paris, and so I really wanted... That was something my mom really wanted to show me when we went, but we didn't get a chance to do it. And so the really cool part of Paris was they had someone playing violin.
The electric violin.
Yeah,
It was
and it
gorgeous.
was insane. When we walked in and we heard it, they were playing Smooth Criminal, and then we were both like...
Let's sit down.
Yeah, it was so good though, and then...
And he was so crisp, and
Yeah.
he smiled. He was so happy to be playing. It was
But then
great.
he played
Double Went Down to Georgia.
and that was really good.
He did a Panic at the Disco song.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a lady who had requested, I forgot what song. It was we sat there for an hour. It was amazing. We went through the shops. Michaela brought up a fact that we thought was really, really nice, and she was spot on. So you go through all these shops and stuff that are attached to the casinos. And it didn't matter what you were wearing, who you were, where you came from. If you walked into Tiffany's or you walked into Rolex or you walked into Cartier, they treated you like you should be there and you're their number one client.
Oh, they didn't Julia Roberts yet?
No, they did not. Well, we had one store
we had one.
that Julia Roberts does.
Did
Yes.
you want to go back with bags?
No, we
No.
just wanted to
Big
say,
mistake.
we really just want to do Big Mistake. It was really an incredible thing
I just wanted to look at the pretty things.
experience because all of us, we walk into the store, we won't say what it is, but it may have New York at the back of it, and it could share the same first name as a purple dinosaur. Anyway,
Is there a store called Barney's?
well, gosh, there is a store called Barney's.
I wouldn't have known.
Yeah. Anyway, so we walk into a store, and Michaela sees this gorgeous dress that she just wants to look at. She's not even touching. She just looks at it. And all of a sudden there is, a lady or two? Just right there on her. Hi, can we help you? And it wasn't, hi, can we help you? It was, hi, can we help you? Like we were bothering them. Like Michaela shouldn't have been in there. And then I was looking at a leather jacket, and I said, oh, this is so beautiful. When I turn 60, this is the kind of thing I want to be wearing. I want to be rocking something like this. And she's like, oh, yeah, the leather jacket's pretty. Do you know the cost? And Michaela and I are like, why are we here? Like, why are you here? You have no idea.
That's too bad, because I would want to go into like the Hublot store and just look around.
And we did a lot of them. We went to Tiffany's. I refused to go into 4 shoe stores only because I would have been irresponsible. It wasn't because I didn't want to. I would have been irresponsible.
This credit card is for emergencies only, Miley.
Right? I would have
left emergency and a right
emergency, pretty sure. And I got to go to an Illy coffee shop, which was, I got to have just a shot of espresso with a little foam on it. It was magic. I don't know that my Italian exchange student liked all the Snapchats I kept sending. Does Venice really look like this? Do you have a gondola singer that looks like this and sings like this?
Is this your uncle?
Are you related to this guy? No. Of course, our Norwegian exchange student responded, yeah, it looks exactly like that, only way older, and the buildings are falling apart.
Falling into the sea, right?
Never. We went to a restaurant before we went to Love called Seersucker, which Michaela found amazing. Absolute amazing culinary experience. Everyone should have it. Totally approachable, really delicious food. But we could not find this restaurant. And this guy
there was no signage. Usually in hotels, in the casinos, there's signage everywhere.
And we couldn't find the signage. And it was so sweet. So this guy, he's pushing a luggage rack. He just got done helping. He said, ladies, can I help you with something? We said, absolutely. We're looking for Seersucker. He's like, oh, let me walk you over here. And then he walked us to a spot and he says, you're going to follow this to the right and you're going to see it right when you get around the current. And it was great. I was like, he had no reason to talk to us. We weren't checking in. He saw us. We were getting water somewhere, and a lady was like, oh, is it your first time in Vegas? Or can I tell you about anything? As we're standing in this line in the lobby. One thing that happened, which we were very surprised about, I did not go into a Starbucks store the entire time we were in Vegas.
She only had one Starbucks.
Is that because there's good coffee, lots of places?
No, we just never went to a Starbucks.
We brewed coffee in our room.
The thing is, though, you can go to
everywhere.
Starbucks here.
Well, everywhere had Starbucks coffee almost. So, our hotel brewed Starbucks coffee for breakfast.
Our breakfast was amazing every day. It was great.
And then every hotel, there's a Starbucks in every corner.
We didn't go into an actual store.
In the hotel lobby or whatever.
So it's not like you didn't drink coffee for a week.
I only drank coffee in the hotel room, though.
Yeah, she didn't have it with her at all times. We had water with us at all times.
A lot, yeah. Yeah, you get off the plane and it's so dry there, the moisture in your skin is just gone. They should have lotion stores everywhere.
I know, those deserts.
I really am still trying to get the moisture back in my skin.
Yeah.
Still a little chapped.
Yeah, my knuckles are.
We went and saw Cirque du Soleil Love. It's a Beatles review. And right down to the ladies, the people who took your tickets, they were dressed in period piece. It was gorgeous.
Which period?
It would be
Sergeant Pepper?
Pan Am.
Think Pan Am. So it was gorgeous. It was a great, great show.
We were 3 rows from the stage.
They were right by us.
A giant tarp thrown over my head. Almost knocked over my drink.
It went over the entire audience, and then it had lights in it, and it was.
Yeah, but
it wasn't like a protective.
No, but Miley's short enough that it's not touching any part of her. And yet I'm the one that did a shoulder workout that morning, so I'm trying to not let it tip my drink.
Michaela and I worked out every day. We were there too,
except for one day.
Yeah, that was the day we had our team conference call, and we knew that.
And we walked 7 miles a day on top of it.
So, yeah. But it was really neat. But Love was gorgeous. If anyone has a chance to go see Cirque du Soleil Love, I highly recommend it. And I would also say that there isn't a bad seat in the house, so even if you get quote-unquote the cheap seats for $55, it's going to be worth it because it's not a giant theater, and you can see, it's a theater in the round, so you can see everything. But they did. I get nervous about shows that are about the Beatles because I don't want to hear someone other than the Beatles sing their music. And they used all their recordings and a lot of their live studio recordings for the conversations and such. And it was a beautiful, beautiful show. It was magic. But we went to a really cool place. I think my favorite place that we visited was the Neon Museum.
Yeah.
That was so cool.
I honestly don't know what my favorite...
We can't really narrow this down. The Neon Museum is a place where they have just collected all of the old neon signs that have come down from the casinos and such. And some of them are working, some of them they have refurbished, some of them are just there. And it's a nonprofit, and you walk around and you look at these signs. And you can take pictures, you can't take video, and you can't bring in a professional photographer unless you've bought a package. But all of their people could tell you about the sign. So we learned some really, really neat stories about... Like, I'd always liked the sign for the Moulin Rouge. And a lot of people know about the Moulin Rouge because of the movie that came out years ago with Nicole Kidman.
Never saw it.
And they know the song because of Pink and...
Christina
Aguilera.
I remember the video. Saw the video a lot of times.
They don't know is that the Moulin Rouge was also a casino in Vegas. And it was only open for 5 months. But it was the very first casino that allowed colored people to come to it. They were allowed to go gamble and to stay there and to be guests of it. Sammy Davis Jr. stayed there. And so Sammy Davis Jr. would play shows with like Frank Sinatra and such, and they would go to, but it was commonly known that the Moulin Rouge was the third show. So they would just, people would come into the bar and they would just riff and play songs, and it was the unofficial third show. And that was, I always thought of Las Vegas as this really welcoming place. I don't know about you, Michaela, but I never really thought about there being discrimination of sorts there because of how open and welcoming it seems to be today.
That just goes to show that it's not 1955.
Right.
Today.
And they talked about how this casino's only open 5 months because the powers that be, they never really knew why. And the history behind it's incredible. They had a huge meeting between the city, the state, the NAACP, and it's called the Moulin Rouge Agreement, where they were going to start working on desegregating Vegas. And shortly after that,
they had to get the mob out of Vegas first, probably.
So shortly after that, then the Moulin Rouge was shut down. And so I didn't even think about the fact that, Sammy Davis Jr. superseded so many of those lines in those stories because he performed everywhere, and he performed with Frank, and he performed with so many incredible people. He stayed in a Motel 6 most of his shows, and I never knew that.
He couldn't stay at the Stardust or the or Caesars. Or...
No, because they were segregated. He could stay at quarters, but he couldn't go stay in a suite. And it had always been one of my favorite signs, and then the history behind it really backed it up. And that sign was also really neat because that sign was designed by one of the few women who did neon design.
The first woman.
And she was one of the last people who capitalized on the lost art of actual hand script in neon. And we didn't realize it. So a lot of people who go into neon are first masters at welding and then at glass before they go to neon, because you have to be able to shape and bend in heat. And it takes several years to learn that craft. And so just in the pure weight of it and the expense of it and the amount of lights and just the artistry and the different groups, because they said it wasn't just the neon artist, it was the person who cut the metal and the people who built the sign. So there was just so much behind it to make a sign happen. And that was pretty cool. And Michaela and I just walked away, and Michaela just kept saying, I love the fact that they've saved the history. They're teaching the history of what really tells so many of the stories in Vegas. So that was really, really neat. What was your favorite sign?
I don't know if I really had one. I loved the Stardust sign, which I don't know how you couldn't. It's huge and it's beautiful, but
they had the coolest logo too, though.
They did.
Coolest logo.
Yeah, probably the Stardust sign, just because it was completely all intact. It wasn't, by piece or anything. So
I liked the Moulin Rouge sign and the Yucca sign.
I knew those were the two you
The Moulin Rouge sign was neat because they were talking about, as a lot of people didn't realize it said Moulin Rouge, it looks like it says in love, in love. because of the way her hand was
The way it
scripted.
was written.
I admittedly didn't know it said Moulin Rouge until it was pointed out to me.
So it was
I really like seeing the old Caesar signs too, because they had
several.
3 versions of the Caesar sign.
It's like old Vegas.
She pointed out a Caesar sign, and I thought she was looking at the other Caesar sign. I'm like, well, yeah, I saw that. And then I'm like, oh, look, there's a Caesar sign. She's like, that's what I was like, oh, I thought you were pointing out that one. And we were...
Yeah, I didn't see that one. But they tell you to go through it once and then go backwards through it because you'll see things that you don't see the first time from a different
Yeah. It was,
perspective.
we got to see some of the circus signs and some old wedding chapel signs and just the sheer expense and weight of it all. They were talking, I forget which, we walked by it, it's on Fremont Street. There is one casino that pretty much what they did was wrap the entire building in neon. And it's still pretty much wrapped in neon, but they actually had to start doing foundation work and such because the neon was pulling the walls
Too heavy.
because it was so heavy.
Nice.
Yeah. And so then you just, every time we looked at a sign, I was like, whoa, just think about how much work went into that sign. And we had asked the question, how do the old time neon artists feel about the new ones? They're like, well, you have to develop a technology, and if you can do it in a way that isn't as heavy, they really have great respect for it. But now when you go by signs, you're like, whoa, you have no idea how much it takes to make that sign and maintain it. It's really, really neat. So I loved it. It was really, really special. And we got to see some really great architecture. We went to a show. We went to Magic Mike, and the architecture of that show was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It totally old school smoking cigar lounge.
That's what I think of too, as architecture.
It was just beautiful. Absolutely stunning.
Yeah. Stunning architecture.
It really
Mike.
was, though. It's not a show that you would think. Like, it's completely different than what you think it would be.
Sure.
It really, really is.
I still don't want to go.
You don't have to. But no, it was really a neat experience. I'm super glad I had Michaela there because she'd been to Vegas several times. Vegas is not a bucket list place I'd ever wanted to go to. And really, I think I've turned down many opportunities to go because I am not a gambler and I don't have a desire to be there. But it was beautiful. And from an education standpoint, it's probably one of the best places to learn about hospitality and guest services. Just remarkable. Absolutely remarkable.
They do it right, that's for sure.
You've been to Vegas, right?
It's been years. I mean, Vegas is so much different since I was there.
Was Frank Sinatra there with
He was still alive, probably. I don't think he was performing.
Barry Manilow is at the Westgate. We kept seeing his picture.
The thing is about Vegas, I would rather go gambling. Because I think gambling's fun. So, like, I don't need to go all the way to Vegas to do that. So why would I go to Vegas? Well, you go to Vegas to see all the other things.
So we took your
Anymore,
$5 bill
Yeah.
and we played it on red at a roulette table. What?
Yeah.
What?
We had
casino?
to have
It had a $15
Hard Rock.
cash minimum, right?
So we each put $5 in.
Hard Rock.
Hard Rock. We're at the Hard Rock, which, by the way, is not going to be the Hard Rock soon. We learned.
It's going to be called Virgin.
Yeah, Richard. He bought
Branson
it. Bought it.
Branson bought
Yeah.
Hard Rock.
But so we did that. The poor lady had to explain some things to us, and
Never
we
played
won. We took our 15 and turned it into 30,
Then you pressed it.
and then we pressed it because you said ride it all
You
the
gotta
way.
let it ride.
And then we lost it.
I
That's the way it
blame.
goes.
I blame Brittany.
So,
I
you only
said,
lost $15.
Yeah.
no, I was like, I was like, do I go or do I just take it? And she's like, well, what did Kurt say? And I was like, Kurt said,
Press
just let it go, let it ride, see where you get. And I was like, and then Britney Spears came on, and we all know I love Britney Spears, so I was like, okay, we're going for it. And then it went black.
But it's okay.
That's the way it goes.
But now I can say I've played roulette.
Yeah.
It's really neat. They have a special
played at a
like
table.
holder, like you don't actually touch the roulette ball or marble,
no,
whatever they
you
call
don't
it.
touch the ball.
No, neither does the person who runs it.
Well, they
because
have a thinger now.
they have a thing. They have this thing, and they tip it in there, and then it spins and it spins and it spins.
They're trying to take all the human potential for cheating.
I guess. How do you cheat at roulette?
Well, I mean, if you had a special ball, if you were
Okay.
spun
You know
it a
what I
certain
kept
way.
expecting? So while we were there, National Lampoon Vegas Vacation game, we watched it. So then I kept expecting the guy who, what's his name? He plays the Indubitably in The Princess Bride. That guy, that actor.
Oh, you wanted him to be your dealer.
I was just
Nobody knows that actor's name, by the way.
I was so afraid. It's Alan something, isn't it?
No one knows who he is.
I just expected for him at some point to show up at the table. What are you doing here? Like, I don't know.
But you didn't go play blackjack. So.
I can't play blackjack. I don't even what is blackjack? I can't see. Yeah,
Probably another episode.
I can't. No, I didn't gamble. That we had great food. We learned a lot. The Marriott, the Spring Hills, at 2989 Paradise Road, Las Vegas, Nevada. Totally worth staying at. Wonderful people. Great breakfast. Good restaurant. The people that work their front desk and their housekeeping are amazing. Super amazing. It's very, very helpful.
The room was clean.
Always.
And
their bathroom was neat.
did they restock the coffee?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
I brought my own, though.
Sure.
They didn't restock mine.
Sure.
No, so the only weird complaint we had about our room, so our room was kind of cool. They had two, how do you describe, the shower was in one room, and the toilet was in one room, and they each had sinks and mirrors. So then Michaela and I both had a mirror to get ready in. But there wasn't a garbage can in the bathroom, or in the room with the shower, so we had to keep taking the garbage can by the desk. That was like
So the bathroom had 2 rooms.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it didn't have 2 trash cans.
Right.
And it should have.
Okay, yeah.
But that was that's a super minor complaint. Super nice. The beds were comfy.
Probably too soft, though.
No, there's no such thing. It was perfect. And, but they were super nice. I think we surprised them though, because we came in and we hadn't had any makeup on, and then we left to go out, and they were like, "Hi,
humans now.
We didn't even recognize you." We're not scary. But no, so they did a great job. The Lyft drivers did a great job. The Las Vegas Convention Center totally knows what they're doing. They were transitioning from the event we had going on to the Hard Rock half and marathon that were coming in. And they never made you feel like you were in the way while they were starting to transition spaces. And they were super helpful. Really, really nice. And it was great. I liked it. I'm glad Michaela made me go.
So they're the mecca for events, but is the wedding MBA always there?
Yes.
In Vegas? That's the wedding MBA home.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not a wedding expert, and I don't want to be, really. I mean, I help with our guests and making sure they have what they need. Some of our guests just happen to be at a wedding. And so that's how I look at it. I'm not a special event person. But I will say that when I overheard one of our brides this summer, it was morning of, one of her bridesmaids asked her, "So, how you feeling?" Just a general, "How you feeling?" It's the day of your wedding. She's like, "At this point, I just want it to be over, and I want to stop making decisions." And so, and I think that's what Michaela kind of does going in when she works with brides. Because I think you've said that before. Because you want to make sure that
their day goes smoothly and that they enjoy it. That's the whole point of a wedding, to me, is you are celebrating your love. You're celebrating this new life that you're starting on and this new journey that you're taking with the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. So the day of your wedding should not be stressful. It should just be a relaxing time where you're celebrating and getting ready with your closest friends and your family, and you are sharing that special day with your special someone. You shouldn't have to be dealing with vendors. You shouldn't have to be dealing with the issues that arise on a wedding day. You shouldn't be dealing with crazy mothers or crazy bridesmaids or any of that stuff. That should be somebody else dealing with it.
And so, I thought that's what you would say, because I just know we've talked about it before, or I've heard you talk about it before.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do an event so special as like a wedding, I think it makes sense to hire someone to manage it. It really does. In this day and age, with all the possibilities, if you've got a budget, I mean, even if you have a small budget, it really pays to have someone take care of things and take your vision and then take care of the details.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that even if you don't get married here, that's fine. But find someone who can handle it, and preferably not someone who's in the wedding, a family member or a friend, because sometimes they're going to tell you what you want to hear
And not
and
what you
think
need to
that's
know.
good for you, and not what you need to know. Is like, you need to know, all right, yeah, this cake is good, but it's very, very expensive, or whatever those details are. I don't even know what they are.
I think someone said it in one of our sessions. They said, it's so often that you want to discount your services, and you need to know what you do isn't just a service or an art form. It's a knowledge base, and it is years of building relationships and experiences. So one, you can't discount your price. You need to be fair about that. But secondly, you need to hire a professional. Professionals aren't your friend. They are there to do a service for you, to help you make this the best. But if you're not going to want to yell at your mom if she does something wrong as she's trying to achieve your vision, those kind of things of you really can damage things when you don't. But hire a professional, and there's a difference. If you're looking for someone to do this, ask for references and ask how that works. But know that you don't go in and negotiate certain things. You got to know what we do is really good work, and we do it for all things, whether it's on the wedding side or the event side. We were just having a conversation with a client that's got an event coming up here, and they were kind of frustrated about some pricing, and instead of following the proper channels, they sent someone else to talk to me, when the proper channel should have been the people organizing the event talks to Michaela, because I trust her to do that. But I'm happy to talk to them. And we did it, but we discussed the fact that they're like, well, I know for a fact that when I go to the store and I buy this, it doesn't cost me that. And I said, well, no, it doesn't. But do you have to have specific machinery to do what you do? Do you carry licensing to do what you do? When you're doing it in your home, are you paying workman's comp? Are you paying, all these things? Mm-hmm. And you have to think about the fact that it isn't just the cup. Whether it doesn't matter if it's a steak or it's a room rental or it's a lodge room or it's taking pictures on our property. There's a lot more that meets the eye that goes into that, and there's a reason we do things. And I really appreciated them saying that. The other thing they said was, by hiring a professional like Michaela or any of our staff, coming to a venue like ours, you're getting the benefit of them having already made the mistakes and learning from them. You're getting the benefit of them having hundreds of thousands of hours of experience in doing what they've done and knowing. And you get the benefit of being able to have a meltdown in front of somebody who's not going to hold it over your head for the rest of your life because they're not your mom or your mother-in-law, your best friend, whatever. And I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Well, and one major thing is that by hiring a professional, whether it's a professional DJ, a professional photographer, a professional caterer, you know that you are working with a professional. This is what they know how to do.
It's their living.
It's important to them, and they're going to do everything right, and they're not going to try and shortchange you. They're not going to try and swindle you out of things or screw you over the day of your wedding. They're not going to not show up and leave you without food or leave you without a DJ. They are professionals. This is their livelihood. They get paid to do this. And you don't have to worry about stuff going wrong because they have done this many times. And there's so many weddings out there where people try and save money here and there with DJs or food or whatever, and that's fine, but they have wedding day catastrophes because the DJ doesn't show up, or there's not enough food, or the food wasn't ready in time, or the cake melted because you tried to have a family friend who makes really great cake do the cake.
But you didn't plan it for the heat of the desert, because they make cakes in Duluth.
Like, there's just things that you need to be aware of, and by hiring a coordinator, you become aware of these things, and you are aware of things that you don't even think of. And that is the whole point of making your wedding day smooth and seamless.
I also like the fact that they talked about cost. They said the other thing that a coordinator or a venue can help people who are throwing weddings or special events understand is you cannot come into something with champagne dreams and a Budweiser budget. And they help you deduce those things really, really fast. So I think you hit the nail on the head perfectly, Kurt, when you say if you are going to do something, you're going to do it right, and you can't devote your time to this, you need to hire someone who does it.
Well, even if you can devote your time to it, why would you want to? Why would you want to devote the stress?
You're working 40 hours a week.
Even if everything goes perfectly, you still have to go through the stress of wondering whether or not it's going to go perfectly. And then what are you thinking about? You're thinking about planning your wedding than actually being at your wedding.
Mm-hmm. And worrying about all those timelines and such. I mean, I was really grateful when I got married. I had my aunt took care of most of my stuff, and it was really, really lovely. When my friends Vinny and Val got married, my husband and I did their planning, and actually all of their wedding invitations went out from our house. All their RSVPs came to our house. We had this, but Val was a firefighter and Vinny was a cop. They had big jobs and real life jobs to do, and they were teachers. So trying to do their life on top of something that was going to be building their life, I can't even imagine what that would be like, and the stress that we were able to take from them and do for them. And, you know, when they told the story about the cake, the lady was like, lived in Minnesota or Michigan or something and built a cake for the Arizona desert. That's a very different cake.
Desert desserts.
Yeah, but it's a very different cake. And you can't fix a cake that isn't made right for the temperature. It might be a beautiful cake, but she said it had beautiful script on it when it came in, and by the time they got to serving it was a marbled cake because all the script had melted because they didn't use the right sugar to water ratio for heat.
Humidity.
And humidity.
It's the humidity that melted the cake.
So, you know, just look at those whole things and yeah.
Okay, so last words, event planning lessons.
Michaela.
Mine is hire a professional, even if you think you don't need one. Miley.
The one thing I took away from it was, I took a lot of things from this conference, but the one thing that I've had in my head now is when your clients hire you, they've hired you, and it is your job to execute the deal. And so if they call you at 8 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock in the morning, you need to let them leave you a message. You don't have to answer it right away, but you do need to take care of it. And you need to approach it and the fact that they are your client. They need to do it with a smile. And if that's something you can't do, maybe you shouldn't be in this business.
I guess the one big thing I took away from the conference itself or the convention or whatever, and something that I've talked to Miley about, and I talked actually with my mom about it this morning, was when I revamped the weddings, I was incredibly worried that people would think it was expensive. That the pricing, it's definitely more than what it used to be, but we're also including a lot more than what we used to. And I was really worried and have been worried that I would outprice us out of business doing weddings. But then after attending this conference, one, trust me, people.
We're a drop in the bucket. We're nothing.
We charge nothing.
She listened to a coordinator who doesn't work for anything less than $3,000 a person, $2,500
a person.
Attending your wedding. $3,500 a person. So if you have 200 people...
I wouldn't.
200 people times $3,500 a person.
But, I mean, most of the people that were in attendance, did weddings at a minimum of $50,000 to $75,000 total. On up. So the fact that we do weddings for $10,000 and less total, it's quite a big jump. But needless to say, the thing I learned was to not undervalue or devalue what I do and what we do. There is value in what I offer to brides and grooms. There is value in what we as a facility offer to brides and grooms. And it can't be free because time is not free. Our resources and the relationships that I have built with people are not free. And we really are a service that is beneficial to brides and grooms or businesses in general because we do a lot for our clients, and we are happy to do a lot for our clients, and to never second guess the pricing or to second guess what we're charging people, because we do have to make money, but we are doing a great service to them, and we are, providing our best to them and creating their special moments and executing their special moments. So
great. So one of the things that we do here is weddings from start to finish, lodging, ceremony, receptions. We can do it all right here. You can have a wedding weekend extravaganza is what I call it. But that's not why we're here. Why are we here?
We create moments that matter.
We create moments that matter. This has been the Hospitality Authority podcast. Signing off.